Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. This is Tonetta, your relationship coach here at Speak Your Truth. And I wanted to bring you this taboo conversations this morning. And it's centered about, I'm talking about domestic violence. This is, of course, October's National Domestic Violence Month. And by this, of course, being a relationship community, I want to make sure that this topic was, of course, addressed at some point inside this group. Besides just being in a post or besides me just commenting and saying something, I guess, on a post or a comment, that kind of thing. So I want to make sure that we talked about this today because I know a lot of people, of course, there's a lot of folks out there who may have either experienced domestic violence or who may be a former victim of domestic violence or a child of a domestic violence relationship. I guess I put it that way. So like I said, I definitely want to make sure I talked about this. So I know this is one of those taboo topics that we normally know that has happened and that does happen. But nobody kind of, there are some, of course, groups now that, of course, talk about it and it's kind of more, I guess, more common. But back in the day, of course, a lot of folks were kind of negating to talk about it, didn't want to talk about it, keep it in the family. Nobody should know your business, all that kind of thing. But when it's affecting you and when you're being triggered by other things that's going on and you're getting yourself when you're an adult into a domestic violence relationship because that's what you're seeing growing up and that kind of thing, like I said, we definitely have a problem and we definitely have to make sure that we address this. And I know I do have some statistics that I will read to you as well. There are several of them, so I did highlight a few of them that I did want to read to you. But first off, I do want to let you know kind of what domestic violence is. And just to let you all know, I'm a social worker, so I've been a social worker over 20 years, about 21 years now, going on 22 years next year, actually. So, and I've dealt with a lot of different, a lot of clients professionally, a lot of people in my family, of course, my parents included, personally, I guess, as far as domestic violence go and making safety plans and those kind of things as well. But domestic violence, of course, is physical violence against a partner or a person that you're with. I guess in this instance, of course, I'm talking about relationships, so I'm talking more about the partners and the violence and the hitting, the smacking, the emotional abuse. There's financial abuse as well. There's various types of abuses. I'm not going to get into all those today, but like I said, the main ones that you normally see and hear about is the physical abuse when the partner's being hit, I guess punched or smacked or hit with bats and those kind of things, or the emotional abuse where you're being talked down to, belittled, disrespected, and your self-esteem is very, very much, of course, lowered. I put it that way. You feel that you have no hope. You can't get out this relationship or that kind of thing as well. Then there's financial abuse when there's only one partner in the relationship that's controlling everything with finances. I guess I put it that way. They're the only ones who are, of course, allowed to work. They're the only ones who, of course, are paying the bills, that kind of thing, and their partner has no income, no anything coming in because that's how they've been controlling the relationship. I guess I put it that way. And there's also sexual abuse as well, rape and things like that. Of course, where a partner or a person in the relationship is taking advantage of the other partner sexually, forcefully, without their permission, and those kind of things. So like I said, those are the four types that, of course, are going to be centered around in this particular video. And of course there's stalking and that kind of thing as well, which I didn't even mention that, but there's stalking, harassment and those kind of things as well. Stalking is when someone, if your partners, of course, you've left them and they're constantly calling your house, constantly following you, saying they're going to do all these things to you, those kind of things, that is stalking. And most folks do have to get protection orders. And actually, I don't think there's no information in here about protection orders, I don't think. But just know that any authority, whether it's the 911, they have crime. I should have wrote it down. I know here in St. Louis, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, we have I think it's called the crime. I can't think of the name of it right now. Whatever it is, I post it down below. But just know that your authorities, and no matter what town or city or state you live in, going to your authorities. They have different domestic violence protocol, I guess I put it that way. And if you are in a relationship such as a domestic violence relationship, they can assist you in filing an order of protection. An order of protection meaning that the person, the abuser, and the accuser has to stay so many feet, I think it's 50 or 100 feet, away from you. I guess they can't come to your door or come to your job, or well, they're not supposed to, I put it that way. But like I said, we all know that sometimes that those kind of things have happened because there have been some women, which this a lot is going to be talking about women. There's men in here a little bit as well, but I know I'm directing this towards women because women are the top ones who are they have the most percentage, of the persons being, physically abused, and in these kind of domestic violence relationships. I put it that way. Yes, there are men who, of course, who've been in situations like this as well. But as far as statistics go, there is a lot more women inside those relationships. So that's going to kind of be the focus, I guess, of this morning. I guess I put it that way. But just keep in mind that orders of protection, they are there to, of course, protect you. From potential violence from your partner after you all have separated, and those kind of things as well. There are groups, of course, in the world, in the country, and I guess I know in St. Louis as well, that can, of course, assist you with changing your identity and having your mail go to like a certain mailbox and that kind of thing in order to keep your address hidden and those kind of things as well. Like I said, there's all types of resources now, which I'm glad for that. And I will share some of those at the end of the video as well for those who are living in St. Louis. And the main one, of course, we all know 911 to, of course, seek help when there is a domestic violence situation going on. But let me go ahead and get into some of these statistics. There's a lot of them I'm going to read, so just listen to what I'm saying, you all. On an average, more than 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men in the U.S. will experience rape, physical violence, and are stalking by an intimate partner. An average of 24 people per minute are victims of rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner. And that's in the United States. That means more than 12 million women and men over the course of a single year will be stalked, raped, or physically attacked by their intimate partner. And it says just under 15% of women and 4% of men in the U.S. have been injured as a result of intimate partner violence that included rape, physical violence, and are stalking by an intimate partner. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men aged 18 or older in the U.S. have been victims of severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. I'm trying to see what else would I read on this one. I think I'll skip down some. Let me see. Almost half of the women and men in the U.S. have experienced psychological aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetime. And it says that women ages 18 to 24 and 25 to 34 generally experience the highest rates of intimate partner violence. And also, I'm going to be reading some things about the children as well, so just keep that in mind, because I'm a child of a household of domestic violence as well. So I want to make sure I read this to you all so that you all can know, of course, but how it affects your children. I guess for those who, of course, in domestic violence situations, or those who, of course, have no idea what domestic violence is and don't know how the kids are affected and that kind of thing. And I'll share a little bit of my story at the end as well. But it's talking about children witness violence in nearly 1 in 4 intimate partner violence cases filed in state courts. 30 to 60% of intimate partner violence perpetrators also abuse the children in the household. And one study found that children exposed to violence in the home were 15 times more likely to be physically and or sexually assaulted than the national average. Now I'm getting to our teens and young adults, because I used to work with teen moms, single moms, ages 12 on up actually. And a lot of them, of course, were either in domestic violence situations when they came to our shelter and our transitional housing program, or they were just getting out of one or currently in one, I guess I put it that way. And it's talking about 9.4% of high school students reported being hit, slapped, or physically hurt intentionally by their partner within the last 12 months. Approximately 1 in 5 or 1 in 7 men who experience rape, physical violence, and are stalking by an intimate partner first experienced some form of partner violence between ages 11 and 17. So that means it's not just adults, you all, because I know I've seen this as well. Like I said, with the single moms that I was working with, as young as 12, 13 years old in these kind of relationships. Approximately 35% of women who were raped as minors were also raped as adults, compared to 14% of women without an early history of rape. The majority, 79% of women victims of completed rape experienced their first rape before the age of 25. 42% experienced their first completed rape before the age of 18. 43% of dating college women reported experiencing violent and abusive dating behaviors, including physical, sexual, digital, verbal, or other controlling abuse. nearly 1 in 3 women, college women, say they've been abused. I mean, they've been in an abusive dating relationship. I'm trying to see. I think that may be it, you all, with the statistics. But I just want to read those to you because, like I said, a lot of those were, of course, alarming. I guess I put it that way. But, of course, we can see a lot of, I know I always talk about hurt people. I know I've always said that, and I always talk about that. In domestic violence, these situations, like I said, I grew up in a situation where my parents were, my dad was very, very physically abusive towards my mom. Many nights, of course, there was definitely several times throughout the week. Most weeks there was always, of course, fights and me trying to jump in the middle to stop things as a kid, 4 or 5 years old and a little bit older as well. Because, I mean, of course, this went on until I left the household and went to college, actually. So like I said, this has always been my reality as far as domestic violence, as far as how I grew up and those kind of things. But just keep in mind that this type of violence does affect your children. Of course, like those statistics said, usually, well, not usually, but there are some, of course, children. I think I read the statistic. I don't remember what it was. But those who, of course, see violence in their home, there's a lot of those children who, of course, I think there was like 40-some% who grow up to, of course, be in a domestic violence situation, of, I guess, a relationship of their own, raped or stalked by their partner, those kind of things. Like I said, we definitely have to start thinking about these things when we're having different partners and different people in our household. I know I'm going to talk about how to help a victim of domestic violence as well, because I know some people may not know how to, of course, help a victim or help a friend that's, of course, in this kind of situation, or help somebody, a neighbor that they know that they hear the hits and they hear see the police being called next door, the man's beating up his wife again or something along those lines. Yes, that's very, 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 I guess, hard to see, I put it that way, but it happens a lot. I guess I can say that. And some of these things are not reported, as you all know. So these statistics may not be, of course, accurate, but just keep in mind that there's all kind of situations out there. And I know, being a social worker and being seen all this for a long time now, that we know that most domestic violence victims, it takes them at least 7 to 10 times to, of course, leave their actual partner. Now, I'm going to get into some of that in I guess in this article as well, but just keep that in mind, that just because you don't agree with what they're going through, or you think it's dumb that they're staying with this person and they can just leave this person, that kind of thing, there's all kind of psychological and emotional attachments that's going on inside this kind of relationship. So make sure you keep that in mind. And I'm actually about to get into the next part of this video so I can talk about some of that, just to let you all know. I'm going to be reading a lot of this just to let you know, because some of this is kind of, we're not reading a lot of it, but I'll just talk about it as I go along. Some of this I will read. The world for many domestic violence victims can be lonely, isolated, and filled with fear. Sometimes reaching out and letting them know that you are there for them can provide tremendous relief. And that's the first thing that's actually in this article that I read yesterday as well, and that I've seen before in different articles and seen in the victims and the folks, I guess the clients that I've met and of course assisted and that kind of thing, and their family as well. But like I said, usually, and my mom as well, like I said, it can definitely be very, very lonely and very, I guess, filled with fear and isolation. A lot of times, of course, I saw my own mother. Of course, she dragged me out the house some of these nights, and 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, they're fighting. I'm hearing slaps and hits and that kind of thing, crying, scared to get up, don't know what to do, that kind of thing. She's coming to get me out of my room so we can leave in the middle of the night. And I know we always went to this particular payphone. I think it's still down there, or the box is still down there on Grand, where I live in the area. We used to always go to that same payphone because that was the closest one that was in the area. I believe she was calling either a domestic violence hotline, is what it sounded like, to, of course, to seek help, that kind of thing, to, of course, figure out what to do. Of course, we did that a long time, I guess I put it that way, for years. And she, of course, never did leave until I was in college, actually. But like I said, that went on for years. And, of course, I remember getting up and going to the payphone and she calling somebody and crying. And then about an hour or 2 later, we'll, of course, walk back home and that kind of thing. And things were calm until the next beating, I put it that way. Like I said, that's definitely what I remember, some of the detrimental things that I remember. And I'm sure a lot of you all out there who may be listening to this and may, of course, know somebody that was in a domestic violence situation, or yourself been in one, or your children, of course, you're a child of a domestic violence relationship as well. Like I said, we don't forget those things. I guess just for you all to keep that in mind. A lot of those things sometimes trigger people, trigger me as well, getting into my own relationship and those kind of things too. But we definitely have to understand that being a victim of domestic violence, it normally is a lonely experience. You're, of course, going out, like I said, my mom going to the payphone to call to get help, that kind of thing. And I'm sure she at some point called family and friends as well. And I'm sure at some point they got sick and tired of her calling, saying she's going to leave him. She's sick and tired of this. She's being beat this day several times a week, that kind of thing. But she's not leaving him. Most other folks like who don't go through that kind of situation, or who can care less about what's going on, why don't she just leave him? That's stupid. Why would you stay? Like I said, there's people out there who would of course shun you, who of course stop talking to you. I guess family and friends. We experienced that. just to let you know, I experienced that. Family and friends, of course, some of them not wanting to deal with you or deal with the family because they know all this stuff is going on. Your mother's stupid, your mother's dumb, she's in the same situation. When is she going to leave? That's a bunch of BS and all this kind of stuff. Why is she still staying with him? And a lot of folks will stop talking to you and stop communicating with you. And that's usually what the abuser actually wants, for the victim to be isolated in that situation, not to have anybody to rely on but him. I put it that way, since I'm talking about men and women only, and the women being the victim in this. Like I said, that's definitely a very lonely and isolated experience, and definitely filled with fear, especially when your family and friends have backed away, and because they're sick and tired of you getting calls saying that you're going to leave, or you going over their house saying, I'm staying over here tonight because I'm sick and tired of this, but then you keep going back. Like I said, that's definitely, a lot of people don't like that, I guess I put it that way, and they will of course cut you out of their life, which is sad, because I know domestic violence victims, like anybody else, they need assistance, they need support as well. But when folks are cutting you off because they're tired and don't know the cycle of domestic violence, that's frustrating for them, which I understand that. This first thing, I know I've already kind of touched on it, was to make time for the victim, make time for the person who's being abused. Like I just said, it can definitely be very, very lonely. But of course, if you know somebody that's being abused, then you may just keep in mind, you may be their only friend and their only sense of hope. I guess I put it that way. Their only person that they can call, their only hope, I guess, like I said, hope or sense of outlook, that kind of thing, and help. So just keep that in mind. I know that definitely is very, very, very frustrating. You keep getting calls from this person, that person. They're going to leave. This man is beating them up. They're crying. The kids are crying in the background. Police is there. All this stuff is going on. But just keep in mind that, yes, it gets frustrating for people who haven't been in this situation and don't care about hearing this over and over again because she hasn't left him yet. But like I said, just keep in mind that you can be the hope and the help for that person who, of course, is feeling isolated. And of course, I know I've already touched on this, but to definitely listen without judgment. A lot of times, of course, like I just said, a lot of people, of course, getting frustrated, sick and tired of hearing what's going on, or she's dumb, she's a stupid person for staying with this man. She should have been in left. What's the point? He ain't gonna do nothing. He just full of talk. And if he beating her, why don't she leave? All those kind of things. Like I said, we cannot place our judgment on those kind of relationships. It is, of course, a physical and usually more emotional and psychological than physical. I know in all the victims that I've talked to, of course, the physical abuse, of course, that was nothing compared to the emotional abuse that they suffered and the psychological trauma that they've suffered. Years and years of being talked down to, disrespected, all that kind of stuff, and told you weren't shit and all those kind of things. And I posted the other day on my own page about how words, of course, hurt us. They always say sticks and stones may break my bones, and words will never hurt or something like that. But yes, they do. Words, of course, control everything that we do every single day. And if those words are constantly negative and putting you down, after you leave a domestic violence relationship, you still usually, because I've seen it, will a lot of times have those self-esteem issues, self-love issues, and those kind of things as well. So like I said, that's definitely something that we all have to think about. And the next thing, of course, I know I'm talking about warning signs and what can occur. These are talking about warning signs. A lot of people try to cover up, of course, bruises and stuff like that. The physical signs you may see, of course, maybe black eyes. I've seen that in my own parent, my own mom. Of course, red marks and purple marks on the neck, busted lips, sprained wrists, bruised arms. And I've also seen family as well. Family is, I guess, as well as being professional as well. I have seen broken bones, of course, people being pushed down the steps. I've seen, well, I didn't see it, but I mean, I know one of my friends was actually murdered by her husband. I mean, actually, he wasn't her husband, I guess her boyfriend at the time. In front of her kids, actually, because it was a domestic violence type relationship. I was actually young when that happened. I was a teenager, about 13, 14 years old, and I will never forget that, because that was actually, like I said, a person I used to hang with and be with. She was only I think she was about, I can't say 7, I think she's about 18, 19 years old maybe. I know she wasn't 20 yet, but like I said, that was definitely very detrimental. They happened a few houses down from where I used to hang out at my grandma's house and that kind of thing. And like I said, there's death as well in these kind of situations, so just keep that in mind. And I know there was a recent situation. There was a man here in St. Louis, that was last week or the week before actually, killed his, I don't know if it was wife or just a partner, and killed some of her kids as well. I think 2 of them are still fighting for life support. Still fighting for their life support. Like I said, these kind of situations can definitely get very, very violent, especially if the man feels that he is either losing control or still want more control, or nobody's going to have her but him. I put it that way. When she's moved on, those things happen. Like I said, the victims and the families of the victims have to always, of course, be on the lookout, make sure that they're looking, I guess, watching their surroundings and that kind of thing as well, because it can definitely get very, very violent, I guess I put it that way. And I'm telling you all that just to keep in mind that if you know that there's a victim that's husband has guns, he goes shooting, or you hear him talking about he's going to kill her or doing something else, definitely make sure that you're, of course, assisting that. And I'll get to that later with the safety plan. But definitely make sure that you're, of course, trying to stay in contact, or letting her just call you, because you may not be able to call the house with him there, I put it that way. But just keep those kind of things in mind. And those are some of the physical, and definitely the death, of course, is a physical sign as well, I put it that way. Some of the emotional signs is very, very low self-esteem, helplessness, overly apologetic or meek, very fearful, changes in sleeping or eating patterns, anxious or on the edge a lot, substance abuse and substance use, symptoms of depression or bipolar disorder, other mental illnesses as well, loss of interest in once enjoyed activities and hobbies, and talking about suicide. And some of the behavioral signs: becoming withdrawn or distant, canceling appointments or meetings at the last minute, being late often, excessive privacy concerning their personal life, isolating themselves from friends and family. Like I said, those are just some of the signs. But like I said, there's definitely a lot of other things that may go along with that as well. But if you have a friend or girlfriend who all of a sudden used to be jolly and happy, but she done got with the guy that you notice that she's being quiet and a lot more reserved, a lot more private, she's not letting you come over her house anymore, or she's not calling you anymore, that kind of thing, definitely be concerned. Or if you notice that her, like I said, her sleep patterns have changed, she's saying that she's tired all the time, can't get sleep, or she's not eating, she's scared and that kind of thing, definitely make sure that you're pulling your friend aside and kind of seeing what you can talk to her about. And I'll get into that as well too. But believe the victim. I know there's a lot of things that usually go on in relationships and stuff like that, but this particular thing is talking about, of course, believing the victim, to make sure that if you're seeing, of course, abuse, is you're knowing that your friend is, her behavior patterns has changed. And thank you, Sandy, for tuning in. I hope that all is well with you today. But definitely, like I said, making sure that you're believing what they're saying and not saying, oh, girl, he couldn't do that. Your man not doing this. He ain't that kind of person. I've met him, that kind of thing. And this is not what this particular thing said, but I'm telling you this, as far as believing the victim. Yes, a lot of times the aggressor, or the person who's doing the violence, I put it that way, yes, that person can be very, very charming to, I guess, the family, very charming to the kids, very charming to those people who he wants to get on his good side, I guess I put it that way, to show that he is a good person and to demonstrate this, oh, I'm the Superman, I can do this, I'm a good person, I would never hurt my girlfriend, my wife, that kind of thing. Like I said, a lot of them, that's how they groom the family and groom the of course, the victim as well, but their family as well. So that, and family and friends. So just make sure that you keep that in mind. And of course, if your friend is telling you that she's being abused, that kind of thing, but all you've seen was him be good and not do anything bad, and you're like, oh, she must be lying, please just believe her at that point, I guess I put it that way. Like I said, the aggressor will definitely make sure that he's been grooming you all to, of course, look at him in a good way, in a positive way, and not in a negative way, I guess I put it that way. That's part of the psychological effects from him, I guess I put it that way. And I know I talked about a little bit before the reasons why victims stay. I know it can be definitely hard for us to, of course, well, not for me, but I guess for those who've never been in this kind of domestic violence situation or grew up in it, that kind of thing, to understand and realize why folks stay. Like I said in the beginning of this video, most domestic violence victims, it takes them 7 to 10 times to, of course, leave their abusive partner and their violent partner, I put it that way. Sometimes folks just do not leave at all. Like I said, my mom, it took her until I was a small child, until I got to college, she finally left, I put it that way. I never remember the day she came to my school telling me, when I was switching classes, she told me she was coming up to meet me and that kind of thing, so I was waiting outside before we talked. She let me know that she was leaving that day, going to stay with her sister up in Jeff City, and that was the last time that I physically saw her, I put it that way, until I, of course, graduated, and, until, of course, she got sick and that kind of thing as well, because she got sick and a few years later passed away, I guess I put it that way as well. So like I said, that was definitely the last time that I saw her being abused and that kind of thing. She had bruises on her face that day when she came to my school. But like I said, some of the reasons why victims stay: Fear of harm if they leave. A lot of times the abuser has told the victim that they'll kill them or kill their kids, kill their mom, kill their dad, kill their best friend, the animal, I mean, like the household pet, that kind of thing. A lot of times they have been put, I guess, psychologically, like I said, that's the main thing that most victims fear and have issues with getting over, is the fear, I guess, like the psychological and the emotional trauma. So like I said, definitely fear of harm. They still love their partner and believe their partner will change. Some folks do believe that their partner will change at some point. They may not, but like I said, that's definitely what they believe. Their partner promised to change. And yes, a lot of time, as far as, oh, baby, I'm sorry I hit you, go and get your flowers, trying to regroom the person again. I'll never do it again, going to take you out to dinner, showing you a good time, all those kind of things. Then here come the balance again. Yes, they do promise, of course, that they'll change. And sorry about that, y'all. I got a phone call. Sorry about that. Hopefully it won't call back. But like I said, if their partner promised to change, then there's a strong belief that the marriage is for better or worse, that you're not supposed to leave your partner when they're, I guess it's for better or worse. You should stay doing any time. It doesn't matter. Thinking that their abuse is their fault. Some victims do feel that the abuse is their fault. Staying for the children. Some do stay, of course, for the children. Lack of self-confidence. Fear of isolation or loneliness. Pressure from the family, community, or church. Lack of means. They have no job, transportation, and money to survive on their own. Like I said, a lot of times those are the actual reasons why people stay. I guess in the professional and the personal things that I've seen, those were definitely some of the reasons why the people stayed. I put it that way. Help them form a safety plan. You have, I guess, if you're, like I said, if you're in this kind of relationship or you know somebody that is, be sure to, of course, help the persons. I guess if you can get them alone by themselves and talk to them by themselves, making sure that you, of course, develop a safety plan with them. Of course, a safety plan should include these following things: a safe place to go in an emergency or if they decide to leave home, a prepared excuse to leave if they feel threatened, a code word to alert family and friends that help is needed, an escape bag with cash, important documents, birth certificates, social security cards, etc., keys, toiletries, and a change of clothes that can be easily accessed in a crisis situation, and a list of emergency contacts, including trusted family and friends, local shelters, and domestic abuse hotlines. Like I said, definitely make sure that those things are in that safety plan. And I'm trying to see, I think that's all I want to say because I have to get going this morning, but I definitely want to make sure that I provide you all with some resources here in St. Louis. I know I did post a National Domestic Violence Hotline. That's 1-800-799-7233. We also here in St. Louis, we have Women's Safe House because I worked with them as well in the past. 314-772-4535. And later on today, I'll actually include these numbers in this post. We have a live, they have a crisis hotline, 314-993-2777. And then there's Safe Connections as well, 314-531-2003. So let's make sure you all, like I said, I definitely want to talk about this topic today, being it's National Domestic Violence Month, this month of October. And I know that, like I said, there are some who may be in the group, possibly, I don't know, who may be experiencing domestic violence. If you are, definitely reach out to me or somebody else in the group that you may trust for support. And don't just go through this alone. And like I said, if you know anybody that's going through this situation, definitely be a support for them. If you're mentally able to do so and it does not trigger you, I put it that way, or it doesn't cause you any anxiousness or harm or that kind of thing, because of course you can be harmed as well. Keep that in mind when you're trying to interject and work with somebody who is in a domestic violence situation. If you can't do that, definitely send them to somebody in your area that of course is a national, I guess that of course can assist in any domestic violence situation. So I just want to say thank you all again for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed the video and got some very, very useful information from this video that you can of course take on with you if you're in this situation or provide to someone else. And of course, if you know somebody that's going through this situation, you can always, of course, I guess tag them in this video if you want them to come and see the video or that kind of thing as well, or just send them to, like I said, the National Domestic Violence Hotline and have them seek help from there. So I want to say thank you all for tuning in to this Taboo Conversations. I hope you all have a great day and learn something about domestic violence today that you can take on and of course live on with, and of course assist those who may be in need. So with that, everybody take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.